new cylinder heads in, so we're gonna go ahead and get to opening up the boxes here. Check them out, make sure everything looks good. And then we can start swapping everything over that needs to be swapped from the old heads to the new heads, which should just be the VVT, or the variable valve timing solenoid and sensor. That should pretty much be it. There we go. This one here is the driver's side cylinder head. All wrapped up, bagged up nice. See if we can untie it here. Nice and cleaned up. Here's a little bit of cleaning from where they have something on it to keep it from rusting during shipping. Other than that, it looks good. They did have to put couple of thread inserts in this head, it looks like. So from where the manifold bolts had broke off and it had to be drilled out and retapped and put some thread inserts in. All new lifters, valves, seats, guides. Everything looks good in that one. We'll go ahead and unbox the other one, then we can get to work. There's been discussions lately about buying parts on Amazon and about there being falsely made both AC Delco and Motorcraft parts. The plugs that I took out of the old cylinder head were literally brand new. They had just been changed. Well, 3 of them broke. From looking at them, the Motorcraft in Platinum is really clear. I've never seen an authentic Motorcraft spark plug that had such clear writing. A little bit of fuzziness that's in the stamped writing on this plug looks more like the authentic Motorcraft plug. So, as well as there's a different shoulder up here at the top. So, and I know the plugs I pulled out that all broke, they all had anti-seize on them, which is a big thing with this style plug. This plug is notorious, this style, for breaking off in the heads. I'm glad I had the heads off and was changing them, because to extract the broken spark plugs on these is an absolute nightmare. Whether or not that is a fake Motorcraft plug, I can't say 100%, but it doesn't look like one that comes from the actual parts warehouses. It could be a fake, could be a real one, not 100%. We're going to go ahead and put some anti-seize on the new plugs that are going to go in this head, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in now. So this Cloy's timing chain kit that came with the new cam phasers, it specifically says, do not use OEM torque to yield specification, torque bolt to 90 foot-pounds. That bolt it's talking about is the one holding the cam phaser on. Now, I'm going to try and do this with the cylinder head off. The way to do this, you're actually going to use a pair of vice grips, go around the camshaft right here behind the cam phaser, so that way you can grab hold of it. There's going to be some pressure on it there. You make sure you're far enough away from this cap though that you aren't damaging the cap holding the camshaft in place. Grab my 15mm here. I've already got my torque wrench set to 90 foot-pounds. You're going to hold the pliers. Might be a little easier going this way. Well, it's more difficult doing this off the truck than on the truck. So like right now I'm at 52. Once I put the head back on, go ahead and slide the timing chains in. Make tightening this up a whole lot easier. I'll go back to finish tightening this, but at least I know it's not going to turn on the camshaft right now. It's not going to come loose. So once I go back and put it on the truck and set the timing chains in there, I'll go back and I'll be able to have the head clamped down to the block there, so it's not going to be trying to move away from me as I'm trying to tighten it. So. I've got the block surface all prepped now. I just used a 400 grit of wet dry sandpaper on a flat piece of wood there, just to knock off all the edges where the old gasket was. I used WD-40 as a lubricant, make sure I don't score up the top of the block or anything like that. So got everything wiped down, cleaned up. I'm gonna put the dowel pins back in. That helps locate the heads as well as holds the head gasket in place while I'm getting ready to set it in. And I'm gonna go ahead and set up my head bolts in the heads. Now, with these heads, like I was saying, whenever I took them out, you can't get all the bolts out. This is the passenger side head. Can't get all the bolts out because the body's in the way. See if I can do this one-handed, open this bolt set. So I do have a trick for these. It's actually a very simple trick. Set the bolts in right like that. So they're all the way down touching, they're not past the bottom of the head, which is important that they're not past the bottom of the head. You take a zip tie, a real small zip tie, because you can pull these bolts back out some whenever it's down there, so you'll be able to get these zip ties off. And just like that, it's marked just like that. So I'll be able to pull the bolt back up once the head's in, cut the zip tie off, get the whole thing out, and then I'll be able to start the threads. And this way it's pulled up high enough to where it's out of the way to set the head in, and I'm not catching the bolts on the head gasket and tearing up the head gasket trying to set the head in. So just like that, it's held on tight. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the dowel pins in now and go to putting this head on. Alright, I'm up to the torque sequence on the head bolts. Procedure calls for 27 to 32 foot-pounds, then rotate bolts 85 to 95 degrees. Back all bolts a minimum of one full turn, or 360 degrees. Torque all bolts to 27 to 32 foot-pounds again. Then rotate bolts 85 to 95 degrees. Then finally rotate all bolts an additional 85 to 95 degrees. I've got it set to 30 foot-pounds, and then I will actually do 90-degree turns on all of them, and I'm going to go ahead and follow the bolt pattern that it shows here. I'm going to go ahead and start on the driver's side and get my socket and my extension so I can reach all the way over top of the cam. Add my socket. No, I'm not seeing it. There it is. Alright, so you'll actually go and torque down each one of them to the 30 foot-pounds first. And then the degrees, then back them out to 360 degrees, and then start torquing them all again. One back. Number 10. Alright. It was set at 360, so I'm going to go ahead and change it back to 90. Alright, it's at 90 degrees. Let's start again. Up to 3. Ah. Alright, we've done that. So this one being digital, it records exactly how many degrees you've turned it. Well, it'll also do it for reverse. So you go and set this back to 360 degrees. And we can start backing them off and it'll record the 360 degrees. Back again. Alright, that's all 10 of them back out. Now, switch it back over, back to the 30 foot-pounds. These are what are known as stretch bolts. That's why they want you to do this sequence the way they say. So that way you can kind of get a little bit of a pre-stretch in the bolt so it'll actually seal down nice and tight. fails. Every time I start to torque a set of heads, my phone starts to ring. Alright, now that I've got the torque number down, I'm going to go ahead, switch to the degrees, go back to 90 degrees, and repeat the whole process. Not too far. Alright, and then I'll have to do the passenger side head then too. Alright, so gone through the full torque sequence, got both cylinder heads torqued all the way down. Now it'll be time to start moving on to the timing chain sets and torquing down the cam phaser bolts. Remember, I started tightening them up with the cylinder heads off and the heads were just moving around too much. So finished tightening up this bolt and this bolt once I have the chains on, so everything's catching a little bit better, a little bit easier to manage. Get the chains on. I've got a new gear for the lower gear for the chain on the crank, and new guides, new tensioners. Then we'll be ready to start putting the valve covers and intake and everything back on, and the timing cover. We're gonna probably get back on that tomorrow. Thanks for watching.